God spoke through the prophet Amos. Take away from me the noise of your songs. To the melody of your harps I will not listen, but let justice roll down like waters, and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to our Sunday service at Cross Street Chapel. It is my pleasure to be here with you today and to join together as a community to share in some worship and some time together. I hope that whatever it is that you seek in this space, be it time for laughter and joy and celebration, or perhaps time for repose and sorrow and tears, that you'll find those. Perhaps you've come just looking for a bit of wisdom. I hope that can be provided. Or perhaps you're only here just to rest with the divine. And if that's the case, we have silence and we have time for our community to hold each other in those times of distress and times of joy. So thank you for joining us today. We started our service with those words of the prophet Amos, reminding us that worship is not just about not just about ritual and words, but the actions as well that we call upon to bring ourselves together, to create the world that we want to live in. Part of our worship, a ritual that we do turn to, is the lighting of our chalice. So we're going to turn to that now. I have Cross Street's chalice next to me. If you wish to join in with a chalice that you might have at home, or perhaps a small tea light or electric light, even if you have none of those, I hope that you can turn to that inner light within, that inspiration and that drive that you might have, that energy that gets you through each day. Turn to that, give honor. We talk about worship, the word worship meaning worth, to recognize those things that have worth. So our opportunity to carry on through the world as it is certainly something worthy of recognition. So we turn to our chalice lighting. The flame transforms the dark room. The flame transforms the cold fingers. The flame transforms the hard wax. Our pursuit of knowledge transforms the dark mind. Our pursuit of community transforms the cold heart. And our pursuit of love for all creation transforms the hard soul. Amen. So that's a ritual that's going to occur throughout the world today through Unitarian communities near and far. One that's a bit closer to home for us is the reciting of our covenant, which will appear to my side. So please do recite that with me. This is something that we affirm as a community, the way that we want to be in this world, that we think will help, as I said before, create a world of justice and care and compassion. We gather here in sacred fellowship to witness the fullness of our lives and all life, to hold and be held, tell stories and listen, to be renewed and renew the world. We speak with care and patience. We act with gentleness and compassion. We forgive each other and ourselves. In faith that we build beloved community, we renew our covenant today. Amen. And we now turn to the words of a Unitarian minister from the Philippines, Per Carlcu Sienz. You have called and bound us together into one common life. Help us, in the midst of our diverse relations as we struggle for justice and truth, that we may confront one another without hatred and bitterness, and have eyes open for opportunities for mutual patience and respect, so that we may embrace new horizons. Touch our bruised feelings, comfort our broken hearts, and calm our shattered minds, that we may reconcile the broken and the tormented, reunite the detached and the fractured. Amen. So next we come to our hymn today. Our first hymn today, Come Strong God, with words by Andrew Hill, music by Henry Purcell. Thank you. Our first reading is from the Odes of Solomon, an early text in the Christian, mainly in the Christian tradition, written within the first 3 centuries of the Common Era. My heart was split, and a flower appeared, and grace sprang up, and it bore fruit for my God. You split me, tore my heart open, filled me with love. You poured your spirit into me. I knew you as I know myself. Speaking waters touched me from your fountain, the source of life. I swallowed them and was drunk with the water that never dies. And my drunkenness was insight, intimacy with your spirit. And you have made all things new. You have showed me all things shining. You have granted me perfect ease. I've become like paradise, a garden whose fruit is joy, and you are the sun upon me. My eyes are radiant with your spirit. My nostrils fill with your fragrance. My ears delight in your music. Blessed are those who are planted on your earth, in your garden, who grow as your trees and flowers grow, who transform their darkness to light. Their roots plunge into darkness. Their faces turn toward the light. And all those who love you are beautiful. They overflow with your presence so that they can do nothing but good. There is infinite space in your garden. All people are welcome here. All they need do is enter. From the Odes of Solomon. Beautiful mystical text, which is affirming, which is positive, which speaks of a world full of joy and beauty. We turn to now the Jewish poet who died during the Holocaust, Pavel Friedman, whose poem "The Butterfly" beautifully, beautiful, but it encapsulates the reality for others. That recognizes that maybe it is not simply as easy as just entering in. So this is the poem. The poem "The Butterfly" by Pavel Friedman. The very last, so richly, brightly, dazzlingly yellow. Perhaps if the sun's tears would sing against a white stone. Such a yellow is carried lightly way up high. It went away, I'm sure, because it wished to kiss the world goodbye. For 7 weeks I've lived here, penned up inside this ghetto. But I have found what I love here. The dandelions call to me, and the white chestnut branches in the court. Only I never saw another butterfly. That butterfly was the last one. Butterflies don't live here, in the ghetto. The Butterfly by Pavel Friedman. Our neighbor dropped off a gift last night. We don't know them that well, just in those sort of serendipitous meetings. A year and a half ago, I rode in the lift with them as they brought their newborn back from the hospital. I recognized the joy in their faces that tiredness couldn't vanquish. From there, it has been the occasional pram spotting, passing, brief chatting, but nothing much beyond that. So when they wrote saying that they had an extra bottle of, well, let's call it wine, we were very grateful for their generosity. Having spent the bulk of the past 15 years living in apartments, I would describe there being a certain necessary contradiction. The more intimate the space, the more impersonal the contacts. I may be wrong, and I'm sure neighbors can develop deep bonds with one another. I am sure there are as well other factors such as income, generation, and so forth. But the more likely that one is able to encounter someone in the hallway, the more needed is their personal space. Perhaps describing it as impersonal is incorrect. Reserved might be better. Emotions are reserved for one's own apartment, balancing the physical proximity with emotional distance. Nearly a year ago, when the first lockdown was in its infancy, you could witness this personal space breaking down. People on their balconies waving, making light conversation, videos capturing the spontaneity of Italian arias and gyms in Holland became keen talking points. We had nowhere to go, so this was the only way connection could be made. As we were forced into more atomized scenarios, the bonds between households became more significant and clearer. Some have tried to use this time for self improvement, others have used it for inner reflection, and some for rest. Many have not been afforded any such opportunity, either undertaking work from home alongside its challenges, or necessarily employed as a key worker. Much has been made about when schools will reopen. For some, they have never closed. Teachers still teach. The children whose parents occupy that aforementioned key worker position, attending a physical building. Many have been forced into a new structure of society, with distance learning, distance socials, and distance church. But remember, for some, these bonds have always worked at a distance. Attending church online is not unusual for the housebound, although many churches now sheepishly acknowledge that it was possible all along. And now, with a better sense of the end in sight, distant as it may be, the conversation has turned to the resiliency of our experience. How soon will we forget? Pundits ask. And then they answer, all too soon. I can see this. Few would relish holding on to the trauma of the past year. There's also talk of what you might describe as a compromise. What can we take from our experience going forward? BBC One's The Big Question this morning asks whether potential solutions to the climate crisis will become clearer, undeniable as we have made use of video conferencing and technology has occupied a greater portion of our work and social life than ever before. Our neighbor dropped off a gift last night. Amidst the pandemic, amidst the cool inaccessibility of apartment living, amidst the challenges of newborn children. We hear in the Gospel of Mark Jesus asking, is a lamp brought in to be placed under a bushel basket or under a bed, and not to be placed on a lampstand? This is often interpreted in two ways. From a specific Christian perspective, the light we possess is the word of salvation. Once enlightened, one must be sure to spread this message across the world. For those with a more pluralist viewpoint, who do not see salvation within Jesus, but may still turn to his words for inspiration, those words often describe our own hesitancy in showing our true selves. We may not feel ready to share ourselves with the world. Perhaps we have a talent, but not the confidence. Self-doubt is a bushel that keeps our light from shining. Perhaps we have kept our identity shrouded for fear of repercussions. The petition to not put our light under a bushel is a reminder that the world will be a better place when our true selves speak out. This past Wednesday was Holocaust Memorial Day, when we reflect on the atrocities wreaked upon Jewish people and others in Nazi Germany. It's also a time to recall the political machinations that led to death and destruction at that time and place, as well as genocides across the globe. We must be aware of political developments that risk a similar inhumanity. Scholars of the Holocaust speak of a triangle of relationships between perpetrators, victims, and bystanders. We have a role to play in preventing the intolerance that leads to discrimination, that leads to persecution, that leads to death. This year's theme for Holocaust Memorial Day was "Be the light in the darkness." And the expression brought to my mind that quote from Jesus earlier. We can choose to keep our light under a bushel, or we can raise our lantern. But it is significant to realize that we are not necessarily letting our light shine simply for our own sake, to live with the conviction that we are speaking our truth. No, by letting our light shine, we are showing others a way. In the darkness, we are providing a measure of hope. In the cold, a measure of warmth. Pavel Friedman reminds us that the butterfly doesn't visit the ghetto. And so we must knock down those walls to bring some beauty back into the world. Sharing ourselves, our talents and skills may be painful if we lack the confidence. But in that pain, we will be giving something to the world. My heart was split, and a flower appeared, and grace sprang up, writes the author of the Odes of Solomon. Our neighbor dropped off a gift last night, and it has reminded me that the world is still beautiful, with kind people, willing the good, raising their lanterns. Amen. It's happened again. Thank you. I will learn this eventually. The intention, of course, is always to edit out the candles of joy and sorrow, not just for my own practice and learning, but thank you for bearing with me as this is all a new progress. If you wish to share your joy or your sorrow, your trial or your triumph, please do type them into the chat box. If you have a Gmail account, you'll be able to sign in through that. If you have a YouTube account, similarly. And otherwise, if you have my mobile number, you'll be able to text me any joy or sorrow you wish to have shared. But if you wish to hold them within your heart, know that your presence here is enough. And this first candle is from Jean for signing into international law last Thursday the United Nations Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. From Alan, a candle for my dear friend Irene, who died peacefully on Friday, and for my lovely husband John. It's 2 years today since he passed away. From William, my twin grandsons are now 9 months old and thriving in Dublin. I just hope that I can see them in person sometime this year. From Vicky, a candle for comfort for Na. From Catherine, a candle of love for Alan and John Christie Casson. From Adam, a candle of joy for getting my first dose of the COVID vaccine yesterday, and thanks to my friend Ryan and all those working to organize and distribute the vaccine in the NHS. For all those joys and sorrows here spoken, and those that remain silently in our hearts. Let us turn now to a time of prayer. Gentle companion, let this space be one of pause, of patience and quiet and contemplation. Not static, not stifling, not aggressive, but the necessary pause to look and reflect. Give us patience as we observe our week and seek understanding for what we have encountered. From the acts of anger and frustration we see on the world stage to the feuds and resentment in our own communities. Share with us your eternal love that we may bravely face the world and its trials, and bring to our minds those stories in our lives and in humanity for which we should be rejoicing. Take care to open us up to the whole of Earth's story, the knotty problems and vibrant solutions. May we seek the creativity in our tales. For each day we are weavers shaping our history and the world's history. As our days carry on, may we know once again the love unlimited within yourself and the love possible within ourselves. Amen. And so we enter into a period of silence for reflection, meditation, contemplation, and personal prayer. Welcome back. Hopefully you can hear me this time. I was just thinking about, I was going to say my early days in ministry, but it still happens from time to time if I'm leading worship elsewhere. My habit to forget to turn off the microphone at the end of the service as I process down out of the chapel and then greet people at the end. So needless to say, this is the same thing, just in an inverse way. Thank you for bearing with me, though. I will get it eventually right one of these times. We have a few notices now before we sing our final hymn and conclude our service. If you need pastoral care, please write to me at minister@crossstreetchapel.org.uk. Please write as well if you would like to provide a reading or other part or element within the service. And if you've just joined us, you can join our mailing list, again by writing to minister@crossstreetchapel.org.uk. Please join us as well for our Zoom tea and coffee social after the service. The login details are by my side, and if you need to pause them in order to sort of jot them down, please do so. Note as well that if you are on our mailing list, you will have received this information yesterday. The National Unitarians have a new website, or they've revamped their website, unitarians.org.uk, and they're looking for feedback. So please do, please do check it out. If you are a lifelong Unitarian, or if you've been with us for a while, look at it from the perspective, perhaps, of does this represent who I think we are as a church, or as a movement. If you are new, a newcomer, please check it out with a view to your impressions of it. Particularly questions such as feedback, such as accessibility. Feedback can be sent again to minister@crossstreetchapel.org.uk. Finally, we're grateful for any contributions that can be made. We have a Just Giving page, justgiving.com/Cross Street Chapel, Manchester, all one word. And again, it appears on our side. So that helps fulfill the chapel's mission and care for the wider community. We come now to our second and final hymn by Kendall Gibbons, From the Crush of Wealth and Power. Happened again. Thank you to Aaron for the music, Catherine for the video editing, John and Lynn for your photos, and all of you for creating and sharing worship today. We close with the words of Anne Frank. When I look outside right into the depth of nature and God, then I was happy, really happy. So long as I have that happiness here, the joy in nature, health, and a lot more besides, all the while one has that, one can always recapture happiness. Riches can all be lost, but that happiness in your own heart can only be veiled, and it will still bring you happiness again, as long as you live. As long as you can look fearlessly up into the heavens, as long as you know that you are pure within, and that you will still find happiness. Amen. Go in peace.